Do you think you can multitask? Do you believe your brain is a supercomputer capable of handling thousands of tasks simultaneously? Really? Then why can't you read a complex book and solve a calculus problem at the same time? Why can't you write an important email while listening to a philosophy podcast? What's actually stopping you? Most of us just accept a truth that's repeated everywhere, that the average human attention span has dropped to 8 seconds. Worse than a goldfish. We accept it as a curse of the digital age, a byproduct of social media and short-form videos. But have you ever actually stopped to think about it? Why 8 seconds? Why not 80 seconds or 800 seconds? What is actually happening inside your skull when you try to focus? You think focus is a skill you can train like going to the gym? You think if you try hard enough you'll overcome distraction? No, you're wrong. Focus isn't a skill. It's not a choice or a virtue. Focus is a physical limit. It's a firewall built into the very structure of your brain to protect you from the collapse of reality. You think you're in control of your attention? Let me show you what I mean. You are actually trapped in a mechanism you've never truly understood. And when you begin to dig into this limit, when you really ask why nothing can break the barrier of singular attention, you discover something so strange, something so fundamentally different from your everyday experience. It changes everything you think you know about intelligence and perception. Focus isn't just a psychological state. It's not just the act of trying to stay off your phone. It is the architecture of the mental universe within you. It is woven into your neural pathways in a way that makes focusing on more things literally meaningless. Let me show you what I mean. Let's start with something simple, something everyone thinks they know. Attention. You experience it like a beam of light, don't you? A spotlight illuminating what you want to see. But what is it really? Look closer. Imagine you are standing in the middle of a giant library. A library unlike any place you've ever seen. Here, there are no bookshelves, no order. Billions, trillions of pages are floating in the air like a white blizzard. Each of those pages is a stream of information. A bird chirping outside the window, the feeling of the shirt fabric touching your shoulder, the faint smell of coffee, or the pressure of your feet pressing against the ground. All of them are screaming for your attention. If you had to read all those pages at once, what would happen? Your brain would explode. It would be instantly overloaded. This is where we need to talk about the attention gate. Think of it the way Newton thought about gravity. Why doesn't the moon fall to the earth? Because it has an orbit. Why don't those billions of streams of information drown your consciousness? Because your brain has a mechanism to keep important things in their proper orbits and let the rest fall into nothingness. Scientists have measured a staggering number. Listen closely. Every second, your senses send about 11 million bits of information to the brain. 11 million. That's a massive number, a non-stop waterfall of data pouring into your nervous system. But guess how many of those you actually process? Let's do some simple math. If you are focused on what I am saying, your brain is only processing about 40 to 50 bits per second. You didn't hear that wrong. Out of 11 million input bits, less than 50 bits make it through the gate into your consciousness. Why is there such a terrifying discrepancy? Why did nature give us an incredibly powerful input system only to strangle it at the output? The answer lies in survival. To survive, you don't need to know how many dust particles are floating in the air. You only need to know if there is a tiger hiding behind the bush. Your brain isn't a mirror reflecting reality. It's a filter. It filters out 99.9999% of the world so you can focus on the remaining 0.001%. This is how the structure of attention works. It keeps your reality stable. It creates order within the chaos of the universe. But here's the truly interesting part. When a filtering system works too powerfully, when it tries to protect you from chaos by strangling information, it begins to create strange errors. Errors that, without meticulous observation, we would never notice. Just like Romer looked at Jupiter's moons and saw they weren't on schedule according to Newton's laws, psychologists began to notice something wrong with how we perceive the world when we are too focused. There is a hole in your filter wall. A hole you don't even know exists even as it happens right before your eyes. Let me show you how terrifying and incredible this blindness can be. Do you think you see everything happening right in front of your eyes? Do you believe that if a giant monster walked across the room, you would definitely notice? Think again. The truth is, your reality is far more fragile and full of holes than you imagine. Let me tell you about one of the most famous experiments in the history of psychology, one that flipped everything we thought we knew about perception upside down. It's called the invisible gorilla. Imagine you're watching a short video. There are two teams of people, one wearing white shirts, the other wearing black. They are passing basketballs to each other. Your task is simple but requires extreme focus. Count exactly how many times the white team passes the ball. You glue your eyes to the screen. 1, 2, 3. You don't want to miss a single beat. You are focusing. You are processing those precious 50 bits of information as carefully as possible. The video ends. You are confident in your count. But then the instructor asks you one question. Did you see the gorilla? You're confused. What gorilla? You watch the video a second time, but this time, you don't count the passes. And suddenly you freeze. Right in the middle of the video, a person in a big black gorilla suit walks straight into the center of the court. He stops, looks directly at the camera, thumps his chest 3 times, and calmly walks off. He was there for a full 9 seconds. 9 long seconds, right in the dead center of your vision. But do you know what's most incredible? Up to 50% of the people who took this test completely missed the gorilla. It wasn't an optical illusion. It wasn't a flaw in the eyes. It was a system error. This is the turning point. Just as Romer noticed an 8-minute discrepancy in the schedule of Jupiter's moons to discover the speed of light, this experiment reveals a shocking truth about the brain. When you focus too intensely on one thing, the rest of the world doesn't just fade, it is erased. It disappears entirely from your reality. Why? Because your brain isn't filtering information the way we thought. Filtering means you still know it's there. You just ignore it. No. Here, the brain is actively blocking the information. It erects a barrier that prevents the data about the gorilla from ever entering your consciousness. Focus has created a massive blind spot, a cognitive black hole, where even a monster becomes invisible. This shatters the belief that we are objective observers. You don't observe the world. You are constructing it from the fragments your brain allows through. When you focus, you are performing a ruthless act of exclusion. But why is this boundary so strict? Why can't you count the passes and see the gorilla at the same time? Why does your mental universe have an unbreakable speed limit for attention? To understand this, we must go deeper into the nature of that barrier, something I call the firewall. And once you understand its mechanism, you will see that focus is not what we think it is. It's not about what you look at. It's something else stranger, deeper, and far more fundamental to the structure of your universe. So, let's go back to that flying library. Imagine you are standing in the middle of a storm of 1,000,000 pages rushing at you at breakneck speeds. You reach out your hand, trying to catch a single page, the page containing what you truly care about. You think you're working your hardest to see it, to grasp it. But this is where reality begins to fracture. You think focus is an act of moving forward? You think it's an effort to seize? No, absolutely not. Focus is not actually about what you look at. That is an illusion we have believed our entire lives. When you stand in the middle of those 1,000,000 pages, the secret doesn't lie in your outstretched hand. The secret lies in something invisible surrounding you. A firewall. That's right, a mental firewall. What is the real twist here? Focus is not the act of choosing one thing. It is the ruthless and decisive act of rejecting the 999 other things. You didn't hear that wrong. For you to be able to read this one line, your brain must say no to millions of other signals screaming for priority. It must say no to the feeling of your shoes hugging your feet. It must say no to the hum of the air conditioner. It must say no to the memory of breakfast and the anxiety of tomorrow. Focus is not a window open to the world. It is a fortress slamming every entrance shut except for a single slit. And this is why it is a physical limit. Think about Einstein and the speed of light. You remember? The universe bends space and time to ensure light always maintains a constant velocity. Your brain is doing something similar. Your mental time and space are not fixed. They are flexible. They stretch and contract to keep your focus at a viable level. The more things you manage to reject, the thicker and more solid your firewall becomes, the deeper the time spent on your goal becomes. Have you ever experienced that feeling when you are doing something you love and suddenly 2 hours pass by like a single minute? That is not a hallucination. That is time dilation in perception. Because you rejected so much noise, your brain no longer had to share resources with anything else, and your 1 second now contains more reality than the second of someone who is distracted. But there is a wall you can never cross. A speed of light of the mind. You cannot force the brain to focus more than the bit limit its biological structure allows. Just as you cannot provide infinite energy to make an object with mass reach the speed of light, you cannot force your consciousness to process more than a single stream of truth at a time without collapsing the entire system. Focus is a structural constant. It is the limit at which your now is defined. If light is the limit of causality in the universe, then focus is the limit of causality in the mind. You cannot go faster than now. You cannot experience 2 nows at the same time. When you try to do that, what we call multitasking, you aren't actually doing 2 things. You are just switching your firewall on and off continuously at staggering speeds. And with every switch you consume a massive amount of energy, making your mental structure exhausted and fragile. You aren't faster. You are just filling your mental space with trash and interference. True focus is the act of elimination. The less noise there is, the closer you get to that absolute limit, where understanding and action become one. You don't need a faster brain. You need a better firewall. You need to understand that the beauty of thought doesn't lie in absorbing everything, but in the ability to reject everything so that only one thing remains: the truth. This is not just a psychological theory. It is the structure of your very existence. Space and time within you are arranged in a way that this limit is the only thing keeping you from dissolving into chaos. And when you accept this limit, when you stop trying to go faster than your own speed of light, you will discover a freedom that most people never know. A freedom found not in infinity, but in the absolute finitude of a moment fully focused. Look at this process. An avalanche of discovery that started with Newton observing the moon to understand gravity, leading to Romer measuring the speed of light through the discrepancies of Jupiter, and finally Einstein redefining the very structure of space-time. Every one of those grand steps did not come from distraction. They came from a ruthless and steadfast focus on a single truth. And that avalanche is still happening inside of you. When you begin to master your firewall, when you bravely learn to say no to the chaos of millions of meaningless bits of information screaming out there, you are starting your own avalanche. World-changing ideas, artistic masterpieces, or simply moments of true peace have never arisen from superficial multitasking. They arise from the ability to protect the narrowest and deepest slit of consciousness. So, from now on, never blame yourself for not being able to do 10 things at once. Don't feel inferior or outdated just because the world out there is moving at breakneck speed while you seem to be standing still. Be proud of that. Be proud because you possess the most miraculous and sophisticated biological machine in the universe. An entity that has gone through over 400,000 years of harsh evolution just to build the greatest firewalls with a single purpose: to protect the meaning of your life from dissolving. Focus is not a chain holding you back. It is the master key. It shows us that the human mind, though bound by finite physical limits, can still reach out and grasp the grandest things if it knows how to eliminate the trivial. And the beauty lies right here. The fact that we can understand our own limits, that we can measure them, test them, and use those very limits to construct reality. That is the most magnificent beauty of consciousness. Not comfort, not simplicity. Truth.